Comcast is committed to bringing access to the internet to all Americans, including rural communities across the country, like Sussex County, Delaware.
We were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward.
Learn more about how we're bringing our next-generation network to more people across the country at ComcastCorporation.com/investment in America.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. Now I am joined by Alex Jones, who is without any question one of the most dynamic and influential commentators on alternative media today. He, of course, is the host of the Alex Jones Show, which you can see at Infowars.com, or you could see it Real Alex Jones on X, formerly known as Twitter. Alex Jones got his start in radio, initially as a commentator for KJFK FM in his hometown of Austin. Let me tell you something else about Alex Jones. He may be one of the most beloved and reviled people in the country, much like myself, but he's a fighter. He is fearless. He is indefatigable. He is courageous. He's a patriot. And above all, he is loyal. There is no more loyal person you want in the foxhole with you than Alex Jones. We have been through fire together, and I'm proud to call him my friend and delighted to have him on the Roger Stone Show today. Alex, welcome.
Roger, last time we were here, it was a super exciting, informative, and very, very popular broadcast, not just on your great WABC there, but also on Twitter. Massive views there on X, so it's great to be back with you. I know we have some really important topics to cover.
I'm going to start with just a generic question, and we'll get into the meaty stuff. You were a pioneer in alternative media back to the 1990s, and you've recently regained enormous visibility on X. Again, folks can see you at Real Alex Jones there. How has your approach to reaching audience changed in this new era of social media, and what's the most unexpected lesson you've learned from your return to X after being widely banned by the deep state?
Well, I mean, Trumpers are targeted about the deep state and a lot about those straw men. Then they try to take you off everything so you can't respond, and they really try to steal your identity. But the biggest thing I've learned is, the corporate media was even weaker than I thought. The fact that they demonize us and attack us, most people then know, oh, they must be good guys. I better go seek them out. And so I've really, in ways, gained a much wider, more diverse audience, not just in the U.S., but around the world in the last 9 years of just unprecedented, persecution. As soon as I endorsed Trump 9.5 years ago, when you got him on the show, all hell broke loose. They thought if they could demonize me and take me down, that would then intimidate everybody else. But here we are 8-9 years later. They've got Elon Musk, a much bigger target, trying to take him down. And, of course, that's failed as well. So their lawfare and their criminal charges and their lies and their censorship have really failed. I'm still on talk radio, bigger than ever, and we're just dominating over at Real Alex Jones on X. They're still in court next week trying to take InfoWars still. They've been caught in that whole saga, but that's just a website. The InfoWar belongs to the people. But, you called us the alternative media. We were that 10 years ago, but we really are the new media. We're the dominant media. Everybody is the media now. And the corporate media is the dinosaur enemy of the people joke. But talk radio was the original internet. It was the original soapbox. It was the original decentralized system where people could call in unfiltered, uncensored, all the different dynamic hosts and guests. And so really it's been talk radio from the beginning, going back to Rush Limbaugh, that really helped launch the platforms we've got today. And we wouldn't have had a chance without it. So thank God to Roger Ailes and Rush Limbaugh for what they did 40 years ago.
Alex, you had a show the other day, one of the most shocking shows I've ever seen, and you report some incredibly shocking and true stuff. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, revealed mass graves of small black children based on scientific experiments conducted on them by Dr. Anthony Fauci. Let's play that.
Tony Fauci made sure that none of those kids had guardians, which is illegal, and then he hid what he was doing from the boards. He took foster homes in 6 states, and he turned them over to the pharmaceutical industry. He made sure that the people who were running those foster homes did not even have medical training. Most of them were immigrants who came from the Dominican Republic. They knew nothing about medicine or responsibilities, and they were sickened when they realized slowly what they were involved in doing to these children, that they were torturing these children. And you know, there's videos of these children, an old BBC documentary that will make you cry. I promise you cannot look at these without weeping. One of these kids, a 12-year-old who's trying to protect the 8-year-old, and he has a tube in his stomach. And he's telling them, I tried to fight them, and this is what they do if you fight them. You can't fight them. You need to just take the drugs. And the kids didn't want to take them because the drugs were making them horribly sick. And Celia Farber was this amazing researcher who worked on this chapter for me and did a lot of the original research on it. She actually went up to Hawthorne, New York, to the Gates of Heaven Cemetery. She found the cemetery where Fauci was disposing of the corpses of these children who died in his illegal experiments. She found an open pit. It was actually covered by an astroturf carpet. She opened the astroturf carpet and she saw hundreds and hundreds of tiny little coffins stacked haphazardly upon each other, because these are children who have no parents and nobody was there to protect them. And Tony Fauci treated them as collateral damage. And, his objective was to enlarge the markets for these pharmaceutical companies who he had partnered with by allowing HIV, these toxic chemotherapy drugs, to be given to children. And then the next experiments, which are in the next chapter, which are equally horrendous, is his experiments on Africa.
Alex, what's the lowdown on Dr. Anthony Fauci? We've got about 2.5 minutes, and we'll go to break, and then we'll pick it up on the other side.
Well, I know that sounds shocking to listeners, but everything Kennedy just said is true. It's in a 2-hour BBC documentary that came out in 2004. I covered it in the mid-'90s with the very journalist that he was just talking about. She's on my show next week. You should get her on. And it was thousands of people around the country, New York, Maryland, but as far away as Texas. And Fauci things to ship it to Africa, and then people thought they were dying of HIV.
I think we may have lost Alex Jones. I'm fully aware of the fact that when the AIDS epidemic began, Dr. Anthony Fauci refused to approve on-label use of Bactrim. Bactrim was a simple and inexpensive drug that had been around since the 50s. It was particularly effective for the treatment of a unique type of pneumonia that those gay men who were affected with the HIV virus were particularly susceptible to. It was killing thousands of people. Anthony Fauci could have prevented those deaths, but he insisted that he wanted to develop an HIV vaccination, which would have been much, much more profitable for the drug companies that he and later he and his wife had partnered with. This is the same Anthony Fauci who would remove the larynxes of helpless dogs and then lock their heads into an enclosure filled with these sand fleas that would literally eat the flesh of these helpless animals. This man is a demon. He is evil, and he has a pardon from Joe Biden, or at least he has a pardon from Joe Biden's pardon pen, his auto pen, so that he cannot be prosecuted for these crimes against humanity. When we come back, Alex Jones can pick this up on the other side. He can tell you more about Anthony Fauci than I ever knew, but he is public enemy number one. If there's anyone who should be brought to justice, anyone who meets the definition of mass murderer, I would argue it is Dr. Anthony Fauci. We'll be right back with Alex Jones on the other side. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at Vanta.com.
Hank's the family fixer, always with his tool belt. But living with prostate cancer, he needed help. He asked his doctor about Xtandi and enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with our guest, the irrepressible Alex Jones. You can find him on X under Real Alex Jones, or go to Infowars.com. He does 3 hours a day every weekday. That's why I call him indefatigable. He is the Patriot's Patriot. We're talking about Dr. Anthony Fauci. I was very encouraged when the Trump administration canceled a $700 million contract with Moderna for an mRNA bird flu vaccine. Also pleased that RFK has ended the recommendation for the COVID-19 vaccination for newborns and women who are pregnant. Yet Dr. Stella Emanuel, who I've seen on your show, Alex, who I think is great, says that the next pandemic will be the Nipah virus, or NIV, a non-segmented, single-stranded, negative-sense RNA virus belonging to the genus Henipus virus family. She says it causes acute encephalitis, respiratory disease in humans, and could be quite deadly. She recalls how they predicted the COVID-19 virus. She notes that they are now predicting this. Alex, are we on the edge of another pandemic?
Well, that's right. We've had Hotez, that's Fauci's minion and spokesman, out there saying, don't worry, a new pandemic will stop Trump. Then we had the Pfizer head of mRNA caught by the great James O'Keefe 2.5 years ago. He was still at Veritas, saying, oh, we've made a bunch of viruses for new COVID, new diseases that we're going to release for our business model. So we know they're doing this. We know Obama ordered the creation of COVID-19 at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Not only was it made in a lab, it was moved in 2015. There was a big scandal and a bunch of other illegal gain-of-function development to Wuhan for plausible deniability. As much as I don't like the communist Chinese, this was not the communist Chinese. This was Peter Daszak. This was Anthony Fauci, HHS head. Kennedy's written the definitive book, The Real Anthony Fauci, on that. But just briefly back to what you were saying, because I'm driving in the country and there was a big wreck on the highway, so I had to go through a side road. Sorry, my phone cut out earlier. Is that it was almost completely nothing but young black children taken from single black mothers. Over 95% of them were black, by Fauci. He ran the program. Tens of thousands of kids, thousands died. This was a mass grave with hundreds dead just in New York State alone. And so the level of this guy's evil is just absolutely unprecedented. He sees us all as guinea pigs. They lied and said the COVID shot would protect you. They lied and said that you couldn't spread it if you took it, even though it erases your immune system. And again, it has the HIV spike protein in it that attacks your autoimmune system and your white blood cells. So they're absolutely gearing up a bunch of new viruses. We know they're behind it. The UN said for decades they would use a novel virus or viruses they call disease X to bring in this global government. The UN wants this treaty that takes over national sovereignty. Trump has blocked that and gotten us out of the WHO. But still, they've got states like Washington and New York, where you had your courts there, authorize the governor to say that during any type of medical emergency, basically, you're under martial law. So they're doing an in run because we won't ratify the treaty and doing it at the state levels. But it's not just Washington State and New York State. It's a bunch of other states have passed or are passing martial law legislation, medical martial law. They built all these emergency virus centers, outbreak centers, not just here, but all around the world under UN auspices, under UN direction. So they always said, I got documents that Lou Dobbs got in 2006 where they said, the UN said, we're going to use viruses to bring in global government. So that's how I've been saying this and hammering this for so long, because this has been their plan. Of course, Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab are right at the top of this whole thing, and it's a very, very serious situation.
FBI Director Kash Patel this week says he will release documents showing where the FBI sources were on the ground during January 6th. The mainstream media has tried endlessly to tie both you and I to the illegal activities of January 6th, even though Reuters reported in April of that year that the FBI had concluded that neither one of us was involved in any illegal activity involving so-called paramilitary organizations. What do you expect these forthcoming January 6th documents releases to show, Alex?
Well, Roger, I was there on January 6th. You wisely were there for speeches, but decided not to, actually even, go to the Capitol. We were there peaceful. We had a stage by the Supreme Court rented. We said peacefully go there. And now we know they had Antifa, they had other leftist groups, and they had FBI and other agency groups dressed up as Trump supporters breaking into the Capitol. They had them also inside the Capitol helping them get in. Pelosi had a camera crew there with her daughter. When Trump wanted 10,000 National Guard in the weeks before, Pelosi and the mayor of D.C. blocked it, along with Milley, the treasonous general. And so this whole thing was a giant setup. Then they had the January 6th fake committee that was fraudulent and wasn't a real act of Congress. The Congress didn't vote for it. The Democrats just created it and put puppet Democrats on it like Liz Cheney. And then they used that to scoop up all the real evidence of January 6th. Then they destroyed all the evidence. They falsified evidence. So they had to be pardoned for what they did. They then said Jan 6 was bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11, even though 4 U.S. citizens died, including Ashley Babbitt, executed. And so they used that to try to set up their domestic federal police force and come after the patriots. But now the public has seen through it. It's blown in their face. So the word is it's just going to be a bunch of information from the FBI perspective that we already know, but it'll be certified and undeniable. And that's why they had to have those pardons. That's why they destroyed your testimony and my testimony and 90+% of the testimony before Congress is because we let them have it and expose what frauds they were to their face. I told them, I said, you are criminals. This is not a real committee. You've already falsified evidence. They've already been caught doing that. Changing emails, changing the wording on them like he did to Trump several times. And it was just disgusting. Trump that day said peacefully go to the Capitol. And then during the staged attack, he went on Twitter and said, do not go in, get out. And then they banned him so that people couldn't see him say that, and so they could lie and say that he said attack the Capitol. So despite all their lies, the truth has now come out, thank God. All
right, we'll be right back with more of Alex Jones. When we come back, I'm going to ask him whether we can avert World War III. We see Lindsey Graham presuming to speak for the United States, trying to foment world war by visiting Ukraine. I guess he's not too busy doing anything in Congress because Congress does nothing. We'll be back with Alex Jones to break it all down. Please, whatever you do, don't touch that dial. You'll be right back in The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key. and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with Alex Jones. He's, of course, the host of the Alex Jones Show, which you can find at Real Alex Jones on X or by going to Infowars.com. Alex, the Bohemian Grove is a secret conclave of globalist elites that takes place once a year in the woods in Northern California. It is an all-male gathering in which those participants dress in costumes, often dress as women, engage in skits, and reportedly worship a giant statue of an owl that represents Moloch. Here's what President Richard Nixon had to say about the Bohemian Grove.
The Bohemian Grove that I attend on time to time, the Easterners and the others that come there, but it is the most damn thing you will ever imagine on San Francisco crowd that goes in there. It's just terrible.
Alex, you crashed the Bohemian Grove. This is so cool, I can't stand it. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Back in 1999, I was approached by International British Television, and they said, because of liability issues, we're scared to sneak in there, but we know some insiders that work there. We know some of the secret passcodes, and we want you to go in and film this ritual in front of this giant 45-foot stone owl that nobody's ever been able to get, where they reportedly do a mock human sacrifice of a child in all these erotic robes and amongst the other weirdness. So I was able to sneak in with a small hidden camera. I was able to get the footage. I was able to get out. Others have tried and been caught and been arrested. And I was only inside for 4 hours. You know, they have guests that come and a lot of prominent people. So I'm not saying everybody that goes is bad. But as Nixon said, and as has come out, it is basically skull and bones for people out of college, but much bigger. And it traces itself backward in their own literature that's been leaked out to the German Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati. And it's extremely occultic. And it's also extremely homosexual. And that's really the old Republican Party that if you wanted to be in it, you had to go. And as you know, Nixon, talked about that, your old boss, your old friend. And he obviously wasn't part of it, but that's what goes on there. And that just shows you that there's all these different bizarre secret societies, but it's definitely one of the most powerful. We had presidents back at the turn of the 19th century, Republican presidents that really started, going there. Mark Twain founded it. And then it was a big party atmosphere where they would bring up a bunch of prostitutes. And then over time, by about 1900, they kicked the prostitutes out, and it became let's just say what it is, an occultic homosexual cult.
Former President Herbert Hoover had a cabin every year. This is where giant decisions were made. Both Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon were summoned by the captains who controlled money at that time in American politics. In the 1968 Republican presidential nomination was sorted out. Reagan was told that he would have to wait, and that Nixon got the go-ahead. They were a financial fact of life. Alex, I've noticed that you look terrific. We haven't seen each other in person in a while, but you've lost a lot of weight. You look hale and healthy. You've clearly reclaimed your body and your health. What was the aha moment, and how important is a healthy body in this fight against the globalists?
Well, I was inspired by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Maha, because I know everything they're saying is true, to start to exercise more, to eat healthy, and basically stop drinking. And just start caring about myself more, because I've got all these enemies that want to take me down. And so I really realized I was my own worst enemy. At dinner about 11 months ago, Joe Rogan, who I've known for 25 years, good friend, he said, "Look, Alex, you're a good-looking guy, but you're a big fat ass." And he said, "I challenge you to work out." And his workout buddy, Sean Johnson, former Navy SEAL, said, "Listen, I'll start training you 7 days a week when I'm in town." And I said, "Fine, I take the challenge." And I've lost 70 pounds, and totally natural with supplements, and a lot of exercise, intermittent fasting, and so it's been amazing.
Yeah, you look great, and congratulations to you. I agree. Fit mind, fit body. You have to be in top shape to fight the globalists. Joe Biden said recently that he would beat the hell out of CNN's Jake Tapper when he was asked about the news reporting on his mental incompetence. This, by the way, fits a long trend. Joe Biden has threatened to beat up every political opponent he's had. When he threatened during a debate to fight John Burris, who was a trucking executive who challenged him in a U.S. Senate race. He threatened several times to take Donald Trump out behind the venue where he was speaking. First of all, the guy looks like he weighs 155 pounds, and a stiff wind would knock him over. He wasn't in condition to fight anybody. But this constant threat of violence by Joe Biden, I think, is part and parcel of his precipitous mental decline, which we could all see with our own eyes. But the media kept saying, don't believe what you see. Don't believe the way he reads the stage directions. Don't believe the way he can't finish a full sentence. He just trails off. Don't pay attention to the fact that he's constantly falling down and he's talking to people who don't exist or can't figure out which way to exit the stage. Is this the greatest single scandal in American political history?
Well, it is. Look, you and I got double banned. People can look it up, 2019, for saying, as he was running against Trump, we said, look, the guy's a puppet. You said it'd be Klain running it. You said it'd be an auto pin. You literally broke all that. But everybody now is like, oh, we knew he was in decline 2 years ago. He clearly had a stroke in 2019. He went from being bad to really bad. It was overnight. I said it. You said it. And then they had all these headlines that not only are Roger Stone and Alex Jones banned on Facebook and YouTube, but we're doubly banned. No one is allowed to say anything nice about us. And then Facebook and its rules even said, but you're allowed to call for violence against these 12 people. And Roger Stone and I were amongst it. That was a test. And so that ties back into all his calls for violence as well. And Comey's 86-47. They're putting contracts out publicly against the president. You have all these Democrats on The View saying Trump's killing people with no evidence, so we need to, be ready to fight and die. They really want to get riots going this summer, but people are really waking up to them. And so they're extremely, extremely desperate and extremely dangerous right now. But, yeah, I mean, he can't even navigate stairs for 5-6 years. So the guy's an absolute joke. They got to hop him up reportedly on amphetamines, even get him to be able to talk, and he's just a complete joke. But he's emblematic of the collapsing globalist leftist Democrat Party that if we just continue to deliver as Trump's doing, we all keep backing Make America Great Again. I don't see how the Democratic Party even continues on.
Yeah, it is amazing that Jake Tapper, talk about a shady character, he dressed Laura Trump down when she suggested in an interview that Joe might be slipping cognitively. He annihilated her. Now he's out there trying to cash in on the fact that he didn't report it then, but he's reporting it now. Dude, you knew then. You all knew then. I watched that the White House Correspondents' Dinner where they gave an award to one reporter, Alex Thomas. He finally reported that Joe was non compos mentis. These are the same people who gave an award to CNN for being outside my home when I was arrested in 2019, as if that wasn't the result of a tip from the White House, from the Mueller investigators. I was arrested at 6:06. At 6:11, my lawyer gets a text message that includes the sealed indictment that would not be unsealed by a federal magistrate till 11 o'clock that morning. And when you look in the metadata tags, you find the initials of the man who wrote it, and therefore the man who leaked it, Andrew Weissman, the arch villain who was really running the Mueller operation. So CNN, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't drink out of the toilet. I mean, it's a cesspool of disinformation. But watching Jake Tapper maneuver now as if he didn't know, he knew, and now he's trying to cash in on it, among the absolute worst. Alex, the Chinese defense ministers complain that President Trump's moving towards a golden dome. We used to call this the Strategic Defense Initiative. leftists mocked us by calling it Star Wars under Ronald Reagan. It obviously had huge technological advances since then. They say that we're militarizing outer space and making it a battlefield. I think President Trump's move is pretty smart. We got about a minute and a half before we break, and then we'll be back. Alex, what do you say?
Absolutely. That will shut down China's intercontinental ballistic missiles that the Clintons basically gave them the technology for treasonously in the mid-1990s. We already have a lot of these systems there. Trump's just beefing it up. Trump would be derelict in his duty to defend America if he did not put up the Golden Dome. Most of it's already up there. It's just highly classified. Trump is just upgrading it and letting the Chinese and the Russians know that we have total superiority, not just with our Strategic Defense Initiative, but also with these other super weapons that I know from physicists and others working on it, make nuclear weapons look like pop guns. So the United States is dominant. We are the world reserve currency, and we have all the cards. The globalists were handing them away at the last minute, but Trump jerked victory out of the jaws of defeat with the American people, and it's ours to lose now. We got to back Trump 100%.
Amen and amen. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Alex Jones. You can find him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Real Alex Jones, or you can find his daily show 5 days a week, plus his emergency broadcasts on the weekend. You can find those at Infowars.com. Don't go away. When we come back, I want to ask Alex Jones about the brutal murder of one of his employees, an old colleague of mine, Jamie White, who was brutally murdered. We now have some answers about that, but I also want to ask him whether he sees victory on the horizon. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by SelectQuote. Life insurance can have a huge impact on our family's future. With SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is simple and affordable. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents will tailor your experience to find a life insurance policy for your needs in as little as 15 minutes. And SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for many conditions. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Go to SelectQuote.com/SpotifyPod today to get started.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with Alex Jones, who is one of the most influential voices in the new media because he has this tremendous tendency to report the truth. It's amazing how many things that Alex Jones predicted that have come true. You can buy yourself an Alex Jones is Right t-shirt. I have one. Alex, a sad item, Jamie White, a talented reporter that I worked with when I hosted the War Room with my colleague Owen Schroyer there at Infowars.com, probably the happiest time in my life, was tragically shot and killed outside of his office apartment in March. Now it's reported that 4 suspects have been arrested, and at least one of those suspects acted with an anti-white racial animus. This evil trend, I think, kicked into high gear by Barack Obama over 10 years ago. How has Jamie's death affected you personally? And how are you addressing this terrific gap that is caused by his loss?
Well, that's right. Jamie was hands down our best writer. Everybody said that. And he was there 9 years. He worked with him. And he was executed a few miles from our house when they came to rob his car, basically carjacking. And I said it's probably our Soros DA. The crime's doubled since he got in 5 years ago. They defunded the police by at least 30%. He lets people out with no bond and shoot people. So it's just made crime explode. And I said he was probably, killed by a gang or something. And then it was the 3 Hispanics. 2 of them are juveniles, from other names. And then 1 Hispanic and 1 black male, 17, who, according to the police affidavit, he's been charged with capital murder. He pulled the trigger, shot Jamie in the throat, and killed him in 1 shot to the carotid artery. And then he cut a rap song, we now know, according to ABC News locally, where he said, he bragged about how he killed that, piece of white garbage. And so it's just really, really sad and just a horrible situation. But at least the Austin Police Department was very vigilant and really worked on it hard. And now they've got all 4 of them charged with capital murder.
It is a great, great tragedy. I saw in a recent discussion you touched on the AI wars and infinite energy. Given your longstanding focus on both of these global conspiracies, what's the most alarming or exciting development you see in the intersection of AI technology and global power structures? And how are you preparing your audience for what comes next?
Well, I mean, it's all alarming. The private AI, the government AI, there's a giant AI race. They're talking about trying to give AI 100 times more power than it's got. The same left that says we shouldn't have food or cars because it's bad for the earth. Energy's bad for us, but AI should have unlimited energy. We're basically worshiping at the feet of this thing, feeding everything into it. And it's to me, I'm not anti-technology, but the way this is all being deployed, all the major AI systems, including Grok, are very leftist. It's just full of disinformation, and I don't think humanity should be handing all our power over to AI, and it's already causing a lot of societal problems. And so I think it's probably, other than nuclear war, the biggest challenge facing humanity right now. But overall, I think the public's becoming aware of it. Congress is becoming aware of it, and so it's obviously something we've got to watch and pay a lot of attention to. Obviously, AI has a lot of great uses, and a lot of independent groups have been innovating it. We've been using it a lot. The biggest threat of AI is what Obama wanted to do. And when I say Obama, I mean the Biden administration. The Biden administration wanted a monopoly on AI. It doesn't want the general public to really have access to use it. So I think the answer to AI is lots of different AIs and lots of different diversity in it. But if you go to any of the major AIs, including Grok, which we have great hopes for, but Gemini, you name it, it won't. If you ask it to show you founding fathers, it shows you people that aren't white. And again, nothing against people that aren't white. It's just all about feeding it disinfo. AI is being trained by these big global corporations to be oppressive and to not empower humanity. And so that's a major problem. Since you mentioned it earlier, I'd also like to talk some about the huge developments on the Ukraine-Russia war front.
Yes, let's do that.
General Kellogg, Trump's main envoy, came out yesterday and said, look, NATO did start this war. Russia is reasonable to not want NATO expansion up to its borders. That was one of the main conditions for peace. And that we're looking to have a deal where Ukraine will not join NATO. So that is a very, very exciting thing. When Trump said, why is Putin bombing Ukraine? Ukraine has doubled their bombings inside Russia in the last month, but our media is not covering that. So Zelensky and elements of NATO want to keep this war going, but Trump's doing a great job trying to get a real peace deal, just like he's doing between Israel and Iran. So just another great thing that President Trump and his different anti-war envoys are doing.
Look, when we signed the Budapest Memorandum after the Russians agreed to the unification of East and West Germany, we agreed in writing not to push Ukraine into NATO, which means really not to mount NATO missiles funded and supplied by the United States on the ground in Ukraine pointed at Russia. We reaffirmed that in the Minsk Accords. We are in active violation of both of those signed agreements. And Putin, I think, and I'm not an apologist or a lover of Putin. My family was mowed down by Russians' tanks in Budapest in 1956. Good God. He's just as evil as, Zelensky. They're both dictators, brutal dictators.
Roger, but you're right. But the issue is, go online on X, just type in NATO expansion map, and it shows it since 1991 going right to Russia's borders, putting missiles on our borders. We would never put up with this, and you've got elements of NATO now authorizing long-range missiles to hit anywhere inside Russia directed by NATO and the U.S. That is a serious escalation in the war. Kellogg admitted today that the U.S. is basically at war with Russia. But absolutely, we should not be the aggressor. We should not be starting this. Secretary of Defense Heck said this right. China is getting ready to go into Taiwan. That is the main threat right now. We've got to totally pivot to deal with China. They are the main threat. Russia is not expansionist. Europe has nuclear weapons. Russia is not going into more countries if we simply do not bring some of those other countries like Ukraine into NATO. That's why Putin said he invaded. Our media just ignored that. But now Kellogg, Trump's head envoy, has put that squarely on the table. So I'm very optimistic we can get world peace. Trump's won the trade war already. The corporate media keeps trying to lie about that. I'm surprised how good Trump's doing, how fast he's doing. But in the info war, we're still winning, but not as much as we are in the war of real reality and business and life and security. 96% shutdown of the border, better than Trump did in his first term. He got 94%. I mean, Trump gets a A+ on action But when it comes to the public understanding just how good the job he's doing, he gets about a C-. But that's really our fault. We all have to get the word out. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, sure, Trump has the highest approval rating ever he's had. Americans for the first time have optimism and believe the president of any president in modern history is doing a good job. So even the skewed polls show we're winning the info war, but not as much as we should be. I mean, Trump is running circles around the globalists and the feckless, out-of-control Democratic Party that thinks that AOC should be the face of the future. They are a joke. So we have to continue to press the attack in the info war and just continue to get the word out.
All right. I want to thank our guest, Alex Jones. I have no problem with Lindsey Graham going to Ukraine. My problem with his coming back. Thanks for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?